Everyone who has ever had one incredible night knows the lie that comes bundled with it. For a few hours, someone else is paying. The world feels unusually generous, and some small, stupid part of you starts to believe this is simply how life works now. Then the sun comes up. Your own paycheck lands, the exact same one it always does. And for one terrible second, it feels like theft. Nothing was stolen. You just spent one night lying to yourself about what normal costs. Netflix beat Wall Street's own estimates. Revenue, in line. Profit, ahead of consensus. Margins, healthy. Within minutes of the report, the stock had lost more than 8%. Beating expectations is supposed to be the good outcome. This is the story of why it wasn't enough, and whose fault that actually was. Go back to February. Netflix had a deal on the table. Buy a piece of Warner Brothers Discovery, its studios, HBO Max, the works. Then Paramount Skydance walked in with a bigger offer, and Warner took it. Under the contract Netflix itself had negotiated, that walkaway wasn't free. Paramount, on Warner's behalf, paid Netflix $2.8 billion, cash, for the privilege of letting the deal die. That single check landed in the exact quarter Netflix reported earnings. And it didn't just pad the number, it reshaped the whole story of the quarter. Net income up 83% year over year. Revenue, the actual business, grew 16. Nobody hid it. Netflix said exactly what that check was, in writing, in plain English, in a filing anyone could have read. But a number that big is hard to unsee. It becomes the new normal, even for the people who know on paper that it isn't. 3 months later, the actual paycheck arrives. Q2. No check this time, just the business doing what it actually does. Judged against its own history, this is a strong quarter. But look at the shape of the curve underneath it. Constant currency growth was 14% in Q1, 12% in Q2, and Netflix's own guidance points to 11% for Q3. 3 straight quarters, quietly losing altitude, with nothing to do with Warner Brothers at all. A slower, ordinary Tuesday, arriving right on schedule. Here's where the hangover stops being a metaphor and starts being a paper trail. Because that check didn't just inflate a headline, it left fingerprints on the cash itself. Q1's buyback, right after the check landed, was modest by Netflix's own recent standards. $1.3 billion, leaving $6.8 billion still authorized. Then Q2. Free cash flow fell to $1.5 billion, down from $2.3 a year earlier. Netflix's own shareholder letter says plainly that the drop included higher cash tax payments due in part to the Warner Brothers termination fee. That same quarter, Netflix repurchased $4.7 billion of its own stock, the largest buyback in the company's history. Weeks earlier, in April, the board had authorized an additional $25 billion in capacity, on top of what remained from Q1. To be precise about what the paper trail actually proves, cash is fungible. Netflix does not say the check funded the buyback directly. What the documents do show is a company that took in a one-time, multi-billion-dollar windfall in February, paid real tax on it in June, and, in that same stretch, spent more on its own stock than ever before. Which brings us back to that 8%. It wasn't Q2 that spooked the market. Q2 came in essentially in line. It was the guide for Q3, 11.7%, against a street that had been positioned for something closer to 13%. 5 months earlier, Q1 hadn't just reported a windfall. On paper, it had reported acceleration. Net income up 83% in the very quarter the Warner deal collapsed. The documents don't say analysts built that number into their models going forward, but the timeline is hard to ignore. An unusually strong quarter in February, followed 5 months later by a market quietly recalibrating what normal is supposed to look like, now that the incredible night is over. Zoom out further, and it isn't just one quarter's hangover. The stock had already fallen roughly 45% from its all-time high, and 31% since April alone, the same month the company's own co-founder stepped back from the board chair, and the same month the board approved $25 billion in new capacity to keep buying its own stock. Netflix didn't have a bad quarter. For the first time in a while, it had a quarter with nothing extraordinary left to lean on. Remember the theft that wasn't? Nothing was actually stolen from Netflix in June. What went missing was quieter than that. 5 months of everyone, the analysts included, quietly forgetting what this company's real paycheck looks like. Because here's the part that should actually unsettle you. The hangover always ends. The paycheck always comes back to what it really was. The only real mystery left is who admits first that they were the one who forgot.